Welcome along to another Insights Delivered deep dive. We, that's HRDelivered, are here to give you that shortcut, straight through the complex stuff so you're absolutely ready for what's next in the workplace. Today, we're digging into the sources on managing the multi-generational workplace in 2025. And look, if you're managing people right now, you'll know this. You could have, 5 generations, all working together, maybe in the office, maybe remotely. The big takeaway from the sources wasn't really about the gaps, the differences between them. It was more about the opportunity, really. Shifting focus to connection, making sure there's space for everyone.
That's it, exactly. And we know our listeners are familiar with the labels, the boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. But the real sort of tension the sources point to isn't just age. It's how their core values sometimes collide.
Right.
You've got baby boomers who often prefer, loyalty, structure.
Yeah, that clear hierarchy sometimes.
Right. And then Gen X, very independent, pragmatic. Then millennials, much more collaborative, often mission-driven. And Gen Z, digital natives, flexible, really socially conscious.
Okay, so that's 4, maybe even 5. Pretty distinct sets of priorities. How on earth do you manage that without, running yourself ragged, trying to please everyone differently?
Well, that's where the unifying idea comes in. It's less about finding one thing everyone likes and more about tapping into what unites us. Things like respect, feeling heard, being empowered to do your job well. That cuts across all ages.
Right, that makes sense. So start with the common ground.
Exactly. And that immediately brings up flexibility. The sources were really clear on this. Flexible options, like adjusted hours or remote work, aren't just a young person thing.
Okay. So it's not a Gen Z perk. It's a cultural shift.
Precisely. It's about work-life balance, and that's something, pretty much everyone values, from boomers right through to Gen Z. It needs to be baked into the culture, not just a generational policy.
But, okay, if we go all in on flexibility, doesn't that create communication headaches? Some people wanting face-to-face, others preferring Slack or Teams, maybe even texts?
Yeah, that's a valid point. You could easily lose important information, couldn't you?
So how do you bridge that analog versus digital divide?
Well, the interesting thing the sources suggest is you embrace the mix. It's about redundancy almost, and definitely intentional inclusion. You need systems that accommodate different styles. And critically, use technology to engage people, not shut them out.
Okay.
And this is where knowledge sharing is, huge. Things like reverse mentoring programs.
Right, where younger staff teach older staff tech.
Well, yes, but it's way more than that. It's a two-way street. It's also about Gen X or boomers sharing that deep experience, the institutional knowledge, the why behind things. That context can seriously elevate how tech is used strategically. And it builds massive respect both ways.
I like that, the two-way street idea. Okay, let's shift to personalization then. The sources talk about tailoring feedback. But doesn't that get tricky? If I give one person quick check-ins and another a formal annual review, isn't that setting up equity issues? How is performance managed fairly?
It's a really important question. The sources stress that the personalization should be about the format or the delivery, not the actual substance or, crucially, the consistency of the feedback.
Okay, so the what stays the same, but the how can vary.
Exactly. The goal is consistent, relevant, personal feedback. Some people thrive on those regular agile check-ins. Others really need that structured, formal review to process things. Your whole engagement approach needs to support these diverse styles. You need tools and processes that recognize contributions in ways that resonate, making sure no one feels overlooked just because the system doesn't quite fit how they work best.
Right, so it's about meeting people where they are communication-wise.
Precisely.
So bringing it all together then, what's the big picture impact for a business?
Well, the benefits are pretty clear according to the sources. When organizations stop seeing generations as problems or gaps and start seeing them as, sources of diverse strength, they see better collaboration, more innovation, because you've got all these different perspectives bumping into each other, and crucially, better retention.
That makes sense. So managing across generations isn't really about 5 separate plans. It's about one solid culture.
One culture built on respect, flexibility, and that constant learning from each other up and down the age scale.
Got it.
A unified approach, not a fragmented one.
And that leads to the final thought, the provocative bit maybe.
Yeah.
If intentional inclusion is key to being future ready,
Okay.
then take a hard look at your actual systems, your tools. Think about your performance software, your engagement platforms. Are they genuinely serving everyone, every work style, every generation? Or are they accidentally, maybe subtly, shutting certain people out because they favor one way of communicating or working? That's the audit you really need to think about next.